Hey guys, welcome back for another week of, well, we'll be doing a little bit on the shed. I also think we might do a little bit of brush clearing this week. That's a nice job for sitting inside the air conditioning and still getting work done. For this week, it's supposed to be highs up around 90, 92, 93 degrees. So it's a little bit warm to be outside working. I'm still going to try getting a little bit done. I'd like to get the fascia boards milled because that's not something that I have done, and we'll try doing that during some of the times of the day, earlier and later when it's a little bit cooler out. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything beyond that done on the shed, but first off, we are going to try digging out our logs that we'll be using for milling the fascia boards, and we're actually going to be using cedar for that. It's a little bit more rot resistant, and this is going to be possibly a bit more exposed to the weather, and we've got a few of those over in our log pile over by the fence. Alright guys, we got our cedar logs over here ready to go. They're in front of the mill, so all we have to do is just kind of swing around, put those on there, get those milled up. I'm not going to do any of that today, but what we are going to do is we're going to head up on the hill and we're going to work on doing some brush clearing. And as you already saw, we were just reconnecting a hose up to the Intimidator, which is another one of the tools that we can use for brush clearing. That is up on the hill towards the road. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take the brush grapple here, take it up onto the hill, drop that off, and then go up towards the road, grab the Intimidator, head back up to there, and then we'll start working on some brush. Well, our fire's pretty well burned down. There's still some stuff kind of snap crackling and burning away in there, but it's a whole lot lower than it was a little bit earlier. And while I was waiting on that to burn down, I went ahead and cleared out a little bit more brush. So I'm gonna call it a day. It's about 8:15 or so, so I'm getting a little hungry. So I'm gonna head out, and then tomorrow we'll be back at this, I believe, and hopefully we might do a little bit of milling for the fascia boards. Alright guys, we are back for day 2 this week. Overnight, the chance of precipitation magically went up for today, for this afternoon, and actually no sooner did I get out here and it's starting to sprinkle just a little bit. So at least for now, we're going to postpone milling, maybe till tomorrow or the next day. We'll hold off, see what the weather does, do some more work doing brush clearing inside the cat here, stay dry. Maybe if it clears up later this afternoon into the evening, we might work on some milling then. Okay, it's now been probably a couple hours since I got up here, and in that time I got the fire going again, which was not all that hard. There was a pretty good bed of coals left from last night, so pretty much I just threw some of this green stuff on there and it just took right off. So we're gonna go ahead and switch back to the Intimidator, get that on there, and it's starting to rain again, so I'm gonna hop back in, get the Intimidator back on, and work on ripping some more of this stuff out, and then we can just chuck it right on the burn pile as we pull it out. And fast forward another couple hours, we switched back now from the Intimidator to the grapple, and part of the reason for that is that our burn pile is in need of restacking. You can't really do a whole lot with that with the Intimidator. The grapple works a whole lot better, it's wider, and you can grab onto it and lift it up and stack it up better. And also, you can see over here behind me, I've ripped out a whole bunch more stuff. And so it's a lot faster to just pull this up to the top of the hill with the Intimidator and drop it. Then I can come back and get 2 or 3 times as much with the grapple than I would be able to carry with the Intimidator from there over to the burn pile. And over here, you can kind of see about where the line was that the brush used to be to. And now you can see how far back, assuming the sun isn't glaring too bad, you can kind of see how far back we've been able to knock it. And then all the way down here in the bottom, there's sort of this little ditch, and I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but it kind of runs right up through there. And it kind of comes on and off through here. Up here, it's pretty flat across here. But then you get over here, you got a little bit of a ditch, and I think it kind of peters out a little bit further down there. But this is another thing we're going to have to kind of work around as we're getting down here into the bottom. And something else that I'd like to point out about how I'm doing the clearing is that I'm not taking everything out. All I'm doing is pulling out the autumn olive, the cedar, blackberry brambles, you know, kind of scrubby stuff like that, and I'm leaving all of these bigger trees. There's cherry, maple, I think there might be some sycamore. I'm leaving all these trees behind, And I'm trying to develop what is called silvopasture. And in case you don't know what that is, silvopasture is incorporating trees, silvo, and pasture, obviously, you know, grazing land, grass area, combining those two together, and that way you've got some shade incorporated into the pasture where animals can get out of the sun, and it can also kind of improve how well your pastures can grow as well. Probably a little bit hard for you guys to judge from the camera how much is done, but I think we've got probably a solid 1.5 acres of this brushy area behind me cleared. The fire's pretty well burnt down, so I'm gonna head out and we should be back tomorrow sometime, and one of these days here this week we're gonna do a little bit of milling on those cedars. Alright guys, fourth and final day for this week. I've got 3 projects that I'd like to get done today. The first is to drag all of that new brush that we ripped out yesterday, get that down on the burn pile and get that burned up today, because that burn pile still, once again, it's got all those coals in there, and we'll just keep it going, and we won't have to light a new one. We can just throw that green stuff on there and get that burned up. The second project is we're gonna get that the fascia boards milled up today. Want to get that done, and maybe we can get that put up next week. And then the third thing that I really need to get done today is that yesterday we kind of blew a hose on the Intimidator. For the most part, I was only using the grapple bucket yesterday. There was a lot of small stuff that just wasn't, you can't get it with the Intimidator. I was using the grapple bucket all day. Then right at the end of the day, I threw on the Intimidator, used it for about 10 minutes, and then blew a hose. So we gotta figure out which one of those hoses it is, get that off so we can get a replacement for that. Alrighty, so we're back down here near the sawmill shed. That way we can kind of work on this a little bit more in the shade, so that out in the sun in the middle of the pasture there. And it also gets us down near the truck where all of our tools are. So I'm not entirely sure where the hole is on here, where it's leaking from. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of push these claws together. That will force some of that hydraulic fluid into the lines, and hopefully we should be able to spot where this leak is. Oh, right there. Right there. Well, that thing is tightened down entirely too hard. You're gonna have to come up with a different plan of attack on that. But in the meantime, let's do a little bit of milling for those fascia boards. Alright guys, I think that is gonna do it. The only other couple things we gotta do to finish out today is I typically use some air and blow down the mill to get all the sawdust off from that, get that kind of cleaned up, get that done, and then I think we'll make one last check up on our burn pile again, just to see how that's doing, probably restack it a little bit, get it pushed back together. And that's gonna be it. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next week.